Hello everyone, welcome to the Score on Air Network's OHSAA Columbus District Preview Show. I'm Julian Jackson alongside Travis Napper, and we have got a lot going on this weekend, so let's get to it.
Absolutely. First off, we're going to start off at the top of the bracket for the Columbus District, starting off with St. Charles taking on Thomas Worthington. Should be an exciting game. This game has been played before. It was played in the CBJ Cup a couple weeks ago, and this should be an exciting one. As you can see right there, St. Charles got to this point taking on New Albany, beating them 5-1, and Thomas Worthington took on Dublin Jerome and beat them 5-1 as well. So both teams coming off very impressive wins. Should be a fun matchup. We've seen this matchup before as they took on each other in the CBJ Cup, so I'm very excited to see what I'm going to get out of this team. We know what Diego Patones can do for St. Charles, and we've seen that Thomas Worthington is no slouch when it comes to playing against this St. Charles team. They've played pretty rough against them and have not given them any easy wins so far, and I look for that to continue with Thomas Worthington. This is going to be a fun matchup. Can St. Charles, though, the big thing I noticed for them in the CBJ Cup is they're very good at keeping control of the puck. Yeah. They've done a better job of getting a stick on the puck, keeping it off the stick of the opposing team. They did that a lot against Olentangy Orange when they faced them in the semifinals. They were very good defensively, and we've known that. We've said that a couple times whenever we got to cover their games. They're a very good defensive team. Their goaltender, Grant Wolf, is amazing. He's very good, especially with the defense that's in front of him, which I'm sure helps a ton when you're trying to, sit in that crease, sit between the pipes, and you have an easy day. Now, the one thing to note is there have been times where he's had an easy day, and if you get a good shot off on him, you could catch him sleeping. Mm-hmm. So if I'm Thomas Worthington, I'm trying to keep him at uneasy. I don't want to make his life easy. I want to make it hard. Because at the end of the day, St. Charles is very key on their defense. So if you can disrupt that, Thomas Worthington has a shot. So I'm very curious to see how this one plays out.
Well, and Travis, I would agree with you there, because when the last time these two teams got together, it was St. Charles who ended up taking over 1-0.
Right.
Grant Wolf did not start. It was Tyson Cooper who played in that game. And then they ended up winning 1-0. Now, the last time I spoke with Diego Patones, he was a little bit agitated, I guess I would say, or offended almost, because I had revered Olentangy Orange as one of the best offenses in the league, given Austin Nutt and Grant Henderson and so many of the other assets they have on their squad. And he said, I think we put that argument to rest when we played against them last. So in their series this season, you've seen now St. Charles has pulled forward as they played 2 times before and split that. In the CBJ Cup, they were able to prevail to go to the finals. But also, they've got an incredible defense. Diego Patones reveres them as the best defense in the area, and that's why they're sitting at the top seed right now.
Well, it's interesting that you mention Olentangy Orange, because there's a very strong possibility that they could see Olentangy Orange again in the semifinals, because just below them in the bracket is Olentangy Orange taking on Talawanda. So this should be interesting. If his comments are, the way that you perceive them, I'm looking for Diego Patones he might have to back those comments up, because as we see right here, Olentangy Orange will be taking on Oxford Talawanda. As we see, Olentangy Orange had a pretty reasonable game to get here, taking on St. Xavier, taking them on 7-1, and but Talawanda, even more impressive, 11-1 against Worthington Kilbourne. So both these teams, again, first couple rounds, you kind of get a feel for what your team is, whether or not you're going to have a long run in this tournament, and they did a great job, both these teams. This one is the one I'm really looking forward to, because we have a team in Talawanda that nobody really knows about. Olentangy Orange knows a little bit about this team. They've faced them twice in the regular season, but still, they're not in the CHC, so they've been kind of on the outside. They've gotten a couple opportunities. I believe they faced Upper Arlington and they faced Olentangy Berlin on top of facing Olentangy Orange. So they've got some experience taking on CHC competition. But these guys are the wild card, because we've not seen them before. So we don't really know what to gauge out of them. And I talked to Austin Knupp about that a little bit last night, and I asked him, how is it to take on an opponent that you don't usually get to see, like an Upper Arlington, like an Olentangy Liberty, or like an Olentangy Berlin? How do you handle that? And he said, well, it's harder. It's definitely harder to do, but being a good team that they are, I think that kind of helped because they got to see them a couple times. So it really helped them to get an idea of what they are. You don't know for sure what kind of team you're still going to get once we get into this tournament play, but they have a general idea, and that's good to start off with. And they saw what they are, what their goaltender's like, who is a very good goaltender, and he had a lot of praise for their goaltender. And he said that they're just a hard physical team. They're very good at playing team hockey, and that's something that I'm really curious to see how that plays up against this high-powered offense for Olentangy Orange. We know what Olentangy Orange can do. We've seen them quite a few times already this year. We've covered quite a few of their games.
Yes.
So, and you brought it up, Austin Knupp, who is definitely is their best player, both in assists and goals. So that's going to be key, obviously, for Olentangy Orange, getting that high-powered offense up to speed. Diego Patonis is right. That team didn't really get too up to speed when they faced it off against St. Charles. So he has an absolutely good point. But does that kind of flip a switch for Olentangy Orange?
Well, and I don't really know if the two translate because you're looking at what you referred to as the wild card with Talawanda. We have no clue what they're capable of. We saw them play Olentangy Orange early in the season in December when the season had started, and Orange was down some players. Talawanda looks as if on paper that they whooped them. I don't believe that Olentangy Orange scored that. I thought it was 5-0. Don't quote me.
It was 6-0. Now, I did speak to Knupp about that as well. I asked him how he felt the couple games went. He did bring up some interesting point.
Okay.
When they took on each other the first time, he said to me that they had a couple players that were out and had not cleared COVID quarantine yet. So They were not playing full up to speed. Now, does that mean that the win for Talawanda should be any less of a win? No. Because Talawanda played an incredible game. He had a lot of praise for them, like I said. Solid team, solid goaltender. The second game they played was a little bit closer, 3-1. Olentangy Orange got the win on this one, so this is the rubber match.
Okay.
But the optics of that 6-0 win for Talawanda are a little bit skewed because of the fact that they had some players out, so they were not up to full speed. But for all we know, for Talawanda, that could be fuel because if you're not facing a up to speed Olentangy Orange team, you're going to want to come out on this third match and just say, you know what? You don't have you didn't have a full team. Now you do. We're still going to beat you.
Okay. Well, I think that's well said. And, so we've covered the first two games to this point with St. Charles and Thomas Worthington. Very exciting. And then also taking a look at Olentangy Orange versus Oxford Talawanda. Man, that's a mouthful, isn't it? So we're going to go ahead and head into break. But when we come back, our second two games, Upper Arlington versus Olentangy Berlin, and then also Olentangy Liberty versus Archbishop Muller. You're watching the Ohio High School Hockey Preview here on Score and Air.
Do you have design ideas for t-shirts but you're not sure where to go? Go to Mojo Sports Gear. That's right, Mojo Sports Gear. At Mojo Sports Gear, you can get custom-made shirts. Whatever design you need, Mojo Sports Gear can provide it. Don't forget to grab a custom-made cap on your way out and rock the best headgear in the game. Give them a call at 614-864-6656. That's 614-864-6656.
In sports, you want to have a player that can get the job done right every time. A real all-star, somebody that's dependable and you can turn to when the game is tough. That player in the audio-video industry is the theater people. From setting up your home's Wi-Fi network and offices, conference rooms, to setting up home theater inside or outside, to setting up the systems to make your home run smarter and safer as well. The theater people can do it all with the quality of professionalism you can expect every single time. That isn't just a great all-around player, that is an all-star. That is why we are the leaders in audiovisual installation in Central Ohio. So call us at 614-604-6327. Or check out our website at ttpcolumbus.com to figure out which products will fit you. And don't forget, amplify your personality with the theater.
Have you always dreamed about a career in sports broadcasting but aren't sure where to begin? Well, if so, then look no further than the Sports Emphasis program at the Ohio Media School. Whether in front of the camera, on the microphone, or behind the scenes, you'll learn from a pro to be a pro in the Sports Emphasis program at the Ohio Media School. You'll get hands-on training and live in-the-field experience at some of Ohio's biggest sporting events. You'll be the star of your very own webcast, and you'll get the opportunity to interview some of Ohio's biggest athletes. Call us today at 614-655-5250 or visit our website at beonair.com.
Welcome back to our preview show. Julian Jackson alongside Travis Napper. We just went over the first two games that we have coming out from the day, the 2:15, the 4:15, and it's St. Charles, Thomas Worthington. We know this now. We were able to discover what Talawanda has done as they're going to be taking on Olentangy Orange. But a look ahead now, and something that we did not mention earlier on that is in just the Central District here. We're looking at three teams. Actually, I think it's three teams in St. Charles, Upper Arlington. No, it's four. St. Charles, Upper Arlington, Olentangy Orange, and Olentangy Liberty tied for 10th in the state. So we have state-ranked teams right now as well. It's all very exciting. Liberty is actually number 9. I believe Orange could be tied for 10th.
I think they are.
Whichever way, I may have flipped the two around. But note that Upper Arlington is number 7. And then we do have St. Charles at number 8. So with all that being said, we know now that Berlin's going to be taking on Upper Arlington. That is a very big game, as we've seen them swap matches throughout this season. Berlin coming up from the White Division. And when I spoke with Dan Neverov earlier on, he had let me know a few different things, a few different tidbits about their team, right? He didn't want to disclose all information, but one of the things that he had noted was they are approaching this week a little bit differently. This isn't same old for them. They're looking to make it to the Final Four. They don't have any real, they're not afraid of anyone. Right. They're going into this with their fist up and rolling. Now, if we go ahead and take a look at the bracket between those two teams, we'll be able to see that Berlin was able to end up defeating Dublin Kaufman in the first round, 2-1. Now, they were a little bit disappointed about this. When I spoke to some of the guys, and I spoke to Jankowski, who's one of their leading points getters on the team, and first team all division, he ended up letting me know that this is something that they know they have to work on moving forward. They're accepting and they're happy that they won against Dublin Kaufman, but they know they could have done a lot better. And they know they have to continue to get better now to beat UA in this round. So with the games this weekend, they realize that this is an uphill battle. And the games are only going to get more tough. They're going to see a great goalie in Garrett Alderman. And there are so many different things to have to factor in here. Berlin, only in its third year. Dan Neverov, now a senior, has been there since his sophomore year because he started off, I believe, at Olentangy with the Braves. Okay. So when he was there, he let me know that his siblings had graduated from there. He was really hoping that he could end up making an impact and playing with them. I believe he started playing high school or hockey right around like middle school. And he started off going to some chiller clinics and things like that. Really picked it up and loved the game. And then from there, moved forward. And now he's the captain for the Berlin Bears. So that's very exciting. We've got bear-on-bear action coming up in the 6:15 slot this weekend. But even more importantly, it's the morale that those two teams have. Upper Arlington, very close with each other as well. And just speaking with some of these Golden Bears, I had a great opportunity to be able to speak with Jack Norris and Max Robbins and Garrett Alderman. And as a matter of fact, we sat down on a Zoom call, myself and Ty Fisher. And here's what Max Robbins had to say about his one-timer in the CBJ Cup Finals.
Max, let's get the most important one out the way first. The one-time shot against St. Charles in the CBJ Cup. Assistant coach Derek Dorsett said you guys have been working on that play. What was it like to execute that almost perfect, like quite perfectly, honestly?
It was great. I mean, we've tried it a lot throughout the year, and we had one where we were down against Orange. You guys were at that game, and we tried it. Carson won it clean. I just didn't get the shot off. So it was nice to actually see it work and go in a big game like St. Charles.
Along the terms of Dorsett, what's it like having, former Blue Jacket as an assistant coach?
I mean, it's great. We love having him on and off the ice. Like I think he loves being with us and we love having him. So it's fun to have someone like that around. But also, he's just a great hockey mind. Obviously, since he played in the NHL, he knows a lot. But it's really nice when he can kind of pass some of that knowledge along to us.
Absolutely incredible, and hopefully we can end up getting that footage from that, as I know that we were on the call for that. And Travis, you've made wonderful calls this year as well, involving Max Robbins' name, involving Austin Knupp's name. So many players in this particular tournament this weekend. They're all impact players. It's not just the gentlemen who you see who get the most points, not the guys you see with the most goals. There are so many other names, and when they talk about cohesion, they talk about playing as a unit, they talk about team morale. There are so many of these guys that come to mind. Another one of these gentlemen that come to mind is I want to go on back and talk about Henderson Bishop. Henderson Bishop, a senior with Berlin, another guy who has played hockey over 13 years. This kid came from Colorado his sophomore year. So up there in Olentangy with Berlin, you look at just those guys, they're being split up from different schools, right? So you have Dan Neverov, who ended up coming from, the other Olentangy and then starting off that new school. Then you have Henderson Bishop, who then ended up, coming from Colorado and moving in, to that district and playing with them. And all of these guys hold each other in such high regard. They know what they're up against. They know they're up against some beast. They know they're up against number 7 in the state, but that doesn't matter to them. Their coaches' expectations are so much higher than what you would think they would be. And they're looking at more than just making it to the Final Four or the Frozen Four or however it is that you want to, to name that. But the state tournament is such a big deal for so many of these teams. And as a matter of fact, I learned earlier on a phone call that these guys, it was the first year they beat Olentangy Liberty. So this is a matchup you could possibly see in the future if the results end up coming out the way that, anything's possible. Anything could be this weekend. Travis, what do you say?
Well, I would be very curious to see if that does happen, especially if we get another 3 overtime game like we did in the CBJ Cup. I mean, that's a broadcasting dream if you're going to get that again. But I'm curious to see how Berlin comes out in this one, because this is another one that is a rematch of that CBJ Cup. So it'll be very interesting to see where Berlin stands from a couple weeks ago to where they are now. They know what they got to do, as you pointed out. They know what they've got to be. They've got to be better. They've got to weather the storm that is the Golden Bears. They've got a great goalie to go up against. They got to go up against Max Robbins. They got to go up against Jack Norris, who you were on the call with. He's been integral for Upper Arlington over the last couple of weeks. But if you're Berlin, it's all about fight. It's all about being gritty. It's all about, these are the kind of matchups that I love to watch. Is the ones where a team is coming off of a bad loss, they get a second chance at it. I want to see what kind of mindset that is. We can talk all day about the fundamentals, and we will, but I want to know what their mindset is. I want to know where they're at from a standpoint, because that first game they played in the CBJ Cup game they played against Upper Arlington did not end well, 5-0. So they've got a bad taste in their mouth, and that's what I want to see. Are they in the mindset of, you know what, that was a bad taste, we can beat them. We know we can. They're not unbeatable. What do we have to do to fix that? And when they come out, I want to see a team that's aggressive, that's gritty, that's going to put a little fight. They're going to punch Upper Arlington in the mouth, and they got to do it quick, because Upper Arlington can score fast and score often, especially with the stick of Max Robbins.
Right.
So what kind of things does Berlin try to implement into this matchup to take on the beast that is Upper Arlington?
Well, they're going to be implementing physicality. They're doing everything in their power to be able to simulate some of their styles of play. I'm sure they're not the only team who's taking film from their last 2 matchups and breaking that down. Targeting and being able to hone in on some of the weaknesses. They know they've got to get pucks on net against Olderman. They've got to make it messy for him down in the crease. And if they're unable to do that, then he's just going to have saves galore. I mean, it's what the guy does. I mean, he's a freak of nature. He's the top-ranked goalie in the red division of the CHC.
He had 44 in the Liberty game.
See, I mean, it's almost like he sees everything and he's everywhere. He's got these fast hands, but he also gets gritty and gets on the floor. Great respect for the kid. Many times when we had conversations, his mind is on the task at hand. He's the one who speaks up first. He's yes sir, no sir type guy. And he's talking about the game that is now. He's not talking about what could happen, because I tried that with him on several occasions and he shot it down. He's, we're focused on what's happening now, not what's happening in the future. We want now, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, I asked the same thing about Austin Nutt, because I alluded to the fact that, hey, you could be facing St. Charles again and get revenge for that game in the CBJ Cup. And he's like, no, we're focused on right now. We're focused on Talawanda. We're focused on an opponent that we have not seen that many times. It's right here, right now. We're focused.
Yeah.
So clearly across the board, nobody is overlooking their opponent. They all understand, and that's great for high school athletes. They understand the severity of what it means right here, right now, not what's going to happen in the future, not the potential that we could maybe see 2 semifinal rematches that have occurred in the CBJ Cup. Right here, right now is what we're focused on. So that's great to see from all of these teams.
Well, and as much as that is great to see, everyone has their own ideas of what things could be at one point or another. But let's go ahead and take that look into the Liberty and Muller matchup. And if you allude to the bracket, Muller they've had their swinging this year. I mean, they ended up first in the white division. So they will come into this with hands up and ready to fight. 1-1 on the season with just 1 loss, and then with another tie earlier on from this season. Archbishop Muller is not one to look at lightly. Now, they ended up beating Bishop Watterson 9-0 on February 21st, but Olentangy Liberty obviously able to, beat up on their sister school from across town in the Olentangy Braves by a score of 8-2 on February 21st. But, I mean, it's absolutely bizarre when you look at that, how competitive these teams are. Having 4 high schools in just one district the way that they do, it's unfathomable. I cannot think about having 4 teams or 4 different, programs in one district and not overlapping or anything. You would think possibly they would end up being just one club team, but these guys, some of them grew up playing with each other. Some of these guys, they're all, if you had to go from Olentangy to another Olentangy, let's say if you're a Berlin kid or something, then that's difficult. That weighs on you, And some of these guys played with the AAA Blue Jackets and things of that sort, so they know a lot of people from around town.
Right.
But simply looking at Liberty, I did have a good opportunity to be able to speak with some of those guys. 3 seniors that I have in mind, Andy Keeler, Jackson Vogen, and Max Lundquist, had something to say about their hopes and their goals for this season.
Close group. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I mean, we have, 12 seniors now. So, I mean, we've all been around each other for a long time and, just gained the chemistry and everything with that. And, just really close guys.
You said, you guys have a lot of seniors. So for the seniors, which is all you guys, what is the picture perfect scenario for your senior season?
Got to win a state championship.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing less.
Being able to play nationwide in the final game. I think that's the dream.
I mean, well said. All of them, and one thing I'll note is that each one of these guys, so well spoken, all yes sir, no sir. It's hard to believe that I'm speaking to teenagers at times, because the way that they present themselves is unlike any other. I taught in a high school. I coached in a high school for a little while. And my guys were, I had a few that really blew me away. But these guys, when I get them on the phone and we're interviewing, it's nothing but respect. And it speaks volumes for their programs, their coaches, and their parents to know that they're out here. They're so respectful. They respond well. And, it seems to me that they're saying all the right things, right?
Yeah, and I had the same experience. I unfortunately only got to speak with Austin Knupp, but I experienced that same thing where, yes, sir, what else do you need? They were very open with, like, what can I do for you? What can I help you with? What kind of answers can I give you? And they were very respectful. I was very impressed.
Yeah. But, not only were we able to end up, having talks with the 3 seniors, we had invited Gage Slaughterbeck, one of the top scorers in the Red Division, to come and talk with us as well, and he was unavailable at that time. So in a separate Zoom session, I was actually able to catch up with him and talk to him a little bit about what it's going to be like to finish up this season. Check it out.
Or what are you planning to do to make the best of the remainder of this season, right? Knowing that if you lose, you're going home.
Well, first thing, obviously, I'm going to make sure to stick to my game, play with my teammates as a whole rather than trying to do everything myself. I will admit I've had those problems in the past, but I think I've came forward and I'm starting to play with my team instead of by myself. I mean, passing the puck, making sure I know where they are, being vocal to them, it's all going to lead to some good opportunities and might even win us the game.
Just so much excitement, and I'll note that he's first team All-Division, part of the All-Academic team, and these guys, and actually many, there must have been 13 or 14 guys, all from Olentangy Liberty, who are hitting the books. And, we had some laughs about it during the interview because everyone was talking about Keeler. When I asked who was the smartest guy on the team, everybody just got silent and said an individual on the team, and then everyone just stopped and they go, Keeler. And then I look at Keeler, and Keeler's silent, and he says nothing. I'm like, man, you don't have much to say, But they all believe he's the brains of the team. He's the brains of the team, Andy Keeler, and he's the goalie. And guess what? I love that because goalies, they need to be smart. They need to know what decisions to make. They need to make sure that they are disciplined, and it shows with this team. And so you were talking about a wild card earlier on. Now, I know Liberty's ranked top 10 in the state. That's fine. But a team who could end up going further in this tournament, I see Liberty as one of those teams. I'm not crossing anyone else out, but we know who won the CBJ Cup. We know who's competing week in and week out in St. Charles. We know that Upper Arlington is able to do so much with what it is that they have right now. There are so many names from that team. Heck, Upper Arlington had 2 guys who were all-state last year, and then they come back again, and they're doing the same thing. They repeat the CBJ Cup, and only time's going to tell. But each one of these teams' goals is to make the Final Four. They know what it's going to take to get there, and nothing short of working hard, focusing on their game, playing their game. And another thing is staying out of the penalty box. If you can't stay disciplined and you can't stay out of the penalty box, that is going to prove reckless for them and will be the demise of their presence in this tournament.
Yeah, I agree. I think this one, though, for me, is one of the other ones where I'm really going to take a long, hard look at what's going to take place in this one. Because I actually got to see Liberty take on Olentangy in that 8-2 win. They came out a little slow at times. If Muller can kind of get a fast pace on Liberty, that could be very crucial against Andy Keeler, because as good as Andy Keeler is, and I'm not disputing that at all, the defense in front of him sometimes has been a little bit lackluster. They've not been as great as some of these other teams at keeping their goalie from without being attacked. Andy Keeler has taken quite a few shots. He took quite a few shots in that CBJ Cup. He took a lot of shots against Olentangy. And leading up to the third period, this was a 3-2 game. That 8-2 score doesn't really tell the whole story because it was 3-2 going into the third period. Liberty got off to a hot start. They scored early. They scored, I think, within the first 20 seconds of the third period. So they got off to a hot start in the third period, but if this Muller team can keep it very close for at least 2 periods, I think they got a great shot. They had a very tough game against Liberty once before. Didn't get on the winning side of that one, but this one is, again, I keep bringing up the fact of the grit, of the intensity. They're going to have to play a gritty game against Olentangy Liberty. They're going to have to make Andy Keeler feel them. They're going to have to they're going to have to impose their presence on Andy Keeler very early on in this game, because at the end of the day, as the game goes on, then Liberty takes over. That smartness takes over, and the team aspect of it for Liberty takes over, and you're going to see some of those shots start to sink for Liberty.
Well, and don't be so sure, because when I spoke to senior from Muller, Dominic Carafilis, Dominic Carafilis, who I spoke to earlier on, and what he was telling me about their preparation and how they're turning everything up in practice. They're focusing more on the opponent who they know they've seen before, who they played against before, and they're looking at that film. They're stretching that. They're focusing on that, seeing how they could get better from their previous games. And that is one way that you go and do it. They know that Archbishop Muller, who's out of Cincinnati, is not as much of a hockey town per se as Columbus is. Yeah. Columbus has, of course, the Columbus Blue Jackets. These are great things that we look at, being local and being in Columbus, but they kind of feel put out, right? In the same way Talawanda might end up feeling put out, is like, oh, well, we don't get to play. Well, Muller has the opportunity too. But the one thing that you can't forget about is that Muller's guys have played together since they were really young. Because they didn't have so many options like being in Columbus, all those kids have come up from some of the same club programs. They've grown together. They have a brotherhood. It's a good cohesive unit. So be careful that they don't come out and give Liberty a good shot at moving on to play against either Upper Arlington or against Berlin, because we don't know what's going to happen.
No, not at all. And I'm very curious to see how that one plays out, because both these teams, I feel like, are pretty even for the most part. Andy Keeler is a great goalie, and you mentioned some of the players that are on Liberty, but I would not sleep on this Muller team one single solitary bit, because this is going to be a rough game from period to period. This is going to be a knockout, drag-out fight between both these teams. I'm very excited to see how this one plays out.
The games we're going to be looking at this weekend are going to be nothing short of prime entertainment. You're looking at Ohio Health Ice House, Premier High School Hockey, the Ohio High School Athletic Association, and the Columbus District Tournament. I mean, this is what kids are playing for. They're looking to get to the Final Four. This is win or go home now, and we've known that for a while. But when we covered the CBJ Cup, you looked at it and it's like, okay, we've got a little time in between. Now they have to fix mistakes. Now you have to get to a point where you're peaking. It's okay to maybe take some of those losses. Orange struggled a little bit during that month of, I believe it was January, how they had actually gone on a win streak throughout December. They came into January and went on a little tear where they ended up losing some games. It was either December or January when they kind of flip-flop. Mm-hmm. Then they started coming on up again. And I said, this is the perfect wave to be able to have for a team. Because now, as you're getting closer to the state tournament and you're creeping just the way you are, similar to the way the Ohio State basketball team lost the other night, that you're looking at, it's okay to lose now, which was a few weeks back. Now, it's complete grit. It's physical play, discipline, staying out of the penalty box, and not trying to do your own thing. Slaughterbeck said it best. He's tried to do some of these things in the past all on his own, and it has served disastrous for him. These guys are looking to play together as units and win as a team, and that is what it's going to take to move to the Final Four.
Absolutely, and the biggest thing is none of these games should be anything short of just drag-out fights. These should be close games, should be great games between some amazing teams. I couldn't be more excited to see some of these teams play against each other, because like we've talked about, we don't know what we're going to get with some of these teams. Yeah, we've seen some of these matchups before, but that's the fun of this, because you've seen it before, so you think you know what's going to happen, but We could have a complete 180 of what happened a couple weeks ago and have completely different outcomes. So this is going to be so much fun to watch, so much fun to keep track of, and that, of course, at the end of the day, so much fun to find out who the winner is and who's going to be broadcasting live from the Score on Air Network YouTube page on Sunday when we broadcast the semifinals.
Yep. Well, shucks, I'm nothing short of excited. I'm looking forward to every matchup this weekend. We've got a lot of hockey in front of us. Good luck to all teams playing.
Absolutely.
And just everyone stay safe out there. Compete. Remember, sportsmanship is one of the things that you need to be looking forward to most. But first, go out there, get on the ice, roll around a little bit, and get dirty, because we're ready for some high school hockey. Here on the Score on Air Network, I'm Julian Jackson, Travis Napper. We'll see you this weekend.